longevity lifestyle designers. This is Zach here with secretsoflongevity.com. I apologize in advance for the lighting, which is probably at times, depending on where I move to, might wash out my face a little bit. At other times it might be in shadow. It is, however, better than my apartment across town. This is my parents' kitchen. My apartment, I've done recipe videos there, and they have been turning out pretty bad in terms of too much shadow, no real good lighting. I need to get sort of a freestanding light, which is something I'll invest in probably in the fall. But until then, I'll move around if I want to do recipes out at any point on my channel up until then. So we're going to be making a herbal superfood jello with real gelatin. This is actually porcine gelatin. Bovine would be preferential, so porcine meaning from a pig. So it's the gelatin extracted from the bones and sinew of pigs, as opposed to bovine, which would be cows. Either way, it's organic. You definitely want to go for organic, because there can be a lot of crap in obviously industrialized bones of animals that have been fed herbicides, pesticides, GMO products, things like that. Not to mention growth hormones and other things that are really deleterious to your health. I have yet to find grass-fed gelatin, a source for that. So if anyone out there knows for it, definitely put it in the comments below where you can find grass-fed gelatin that's in a powdered form. So a lot of people can find grass-fed bones, and I do make bone broth from grass-fed bones at times, but this is just something for the sort of fun aspect of this recipe. Plus, regardless of what the animal's eating, the bones, the gelatin of the animal is going to be very anti-inflammatory. It's going to have a lot of good properties, which I'll discuss in the video in a sec. And by adding sort of the base as a herbal tea and some other things we're going to add to it, as opposed to just using hot water, you end up with something that has a lot of nutrient value and medicinal value as well, which makes consuming herbs, tonic herbs, and these things that are great for us a lot more fun and helps with compliance. So what we've done is we've got 1.5 liters of gynostemma and horny goatweed tea. So the gynostemma comes from Hyperion Herbs, and you can get horny goatweed from a link below as well. This is a different company, but you can get it from Mountain Rose Herbs, I believe. If not, then there won't be a link below, but I'm pretty sure they sell it there. The gynostemma is a yin-jing tonic herb. It does have other properties, a bit more like a qi tonic as well. If you were to compare it to ginseng, it's a Chinese grass, often called miracle grass or jaguarong, I believe is the pronunciation. And if you were to compare it to ginseng, which is something that has similar properties with some of the compounds in it, it actually has over twice as many in terms of the variety of the saponins and medicinal compounds than ginseng has. So ginseng's like 36-ish. This has close to 90. So it's a big difference in terms of its medicinal properties and its ability to help our bodies adapt to stress. Now, horny goatweed is more or less just a libido enhancer. So it's a yin and yang jing tonic, the yang being the horny goatweed, or it's also known as epimedium. Very popular in male supplements, and not just libido enhancing supplements and formulas, but also just to increase energy and help tonify the entire body and the systems. And again, the gynostemma is sort of that more foundational essence type building herb. So we basically just brought this up to a boil with 2 tablespoons of each type of herb in there in equal ratios, and then we just let it cool down to, it's now, a moment ago when I started about to shoot the video, I actually found it intolerable to hold my finger in there, but it can now stay in there. You don't want it to get too cool, but you don't want it just having been boiled. So this has probably been sitting around for about 15 minutes since when it boiled, maybe even a little more, 20 minutes. We're just going to pour it through this sieve here and strain it all out. You can see there's still steam coming off it a little bit. The reason you want it still hot, but not boiling, is the gelatin needs to dissolve into it. There are some types of gelatins that can be mixed into cold water, in which case, you could have the tea in your fridge and pull it out and mix it. But for that to occur, they've actually done some industrial processing that might not be the most optimal. If you want to try getting some gelatin, I'm not sure, I haven't used from this company, but I see a lot of people talking about it, is Great Lakes Gelatin. I'll put a link below. I'm not affiliated with the company, so it doesn't help me out purchasing through that or anything, but this is just one company out there that I've heard good things about. But again, I can't see on their site whether they're organic, can't see if they're grass-fed or not. So if you can find organic gelatin in your area, that might be preferential. So each packet can be added to approximately 2 cups of hot water. So we're going to be doing 2.5 of these packets because we want to have enough. We're basically just going to add all our ingredients to this and shake it up. So we don't even need to blend it. There's nothing, solid or chunky that we're adding here. You might give the gelatin a shake in there first so it can sort of begin the dissolving in there while we start adding these other ingredients. So I was actually expecting the tea to be a little greener. It's going to be an interesting color. I've got some other things that will add some color because we want to have a sort of specific look. And just half of this packet. So I've got half a packet for 1 cup of water at some point in the future. And we're going to throw the lid on. This is a really good jar a friend gave to me. Has a nice seal on it so it's not going to leak out. So I shake it upside down. And we're going to be putting in this Pyrex glass. It's, believe it or not, that actually holds 1.5 liters, right up to below the rim level there. Next, we're going to get out a spoon and add a few other things. Just a tiny bit of salt, just for flavor and to get the benefits of salt a little bit more. That would probably be the equivalent of 2 pinches, 2 large pinches. Next, we're going to add some other herbs from Hyperion Herbs. There's a lot of great stuff on that site. You can check in the links below for the 2 things I'm adding here, cordyceps and hoshu. Hoshu being a yin-jing tonic, as well as a blood-building herb, and cordyceps being a yin and yang-jing tonic, but also a qi tonic. So great for athletes in terms of the cordyceps. Hoshu great for everyone, especially anyone wanting to help with their hair color. So we're adding maybe a teaspoon of that, maybe a little more. 2 teaspoons total of the hoshu, because this is going to be a fair amount. I'm not going to be consuming in one day. And about half a teaspoon is a dose, so if I think of that thing being full, I might consume about 1/4 of it at a time, so you can work out the dosage that way. Now the cordyceps, I'd want to do more, but it has such a strong flavor, I'm only going to be doing a small amount of it. Although I love it, it does have a much stronger, sort of bit more bitter taste than the other herbs that we've added to this whole thing. Gynostemma has a bit of a bitter flavor, but it's also a little bit sweet. It's very interesting. So this isn't going to be the absolute best flavor of JELLO, but we're going to do our best to work with it and see what we come up with. Next step, to add a bit of fun color, but also to get the benefits of what it is adding some brain-on powder. So you can see this color close up or just through the jar. It's rich turquoise. It's actually got a sparkly, almost looks like it could be eyeshadow type of a color. So if we add too much of this, it can really make the whole thing dark. So we're going to literally add just half a teaspoon, which might be less than an optimal dose. Actually, it's more like 1/4 teaspoon. But it's going to add some great color. We're adding a bit of stevia powder. Now it's just the green leaf stevia. Once it's all shaken up, we'll see if that's the right sweetness, and we can always add more. So far, the color is actually not looking like how I thought it might turn out. It's kind of looking like swamp water, and that's okay. Last but not least, I'm going to add a little bit of this tincture I'm in the process of making. It's not ready yet, but it's been soaking for at least 2 weeks. I started it just after the last full moon at the start of this month, and it's going to be ready on the blue moon on the 31st of August 2012 here. And it's a blueberry tincture of wild blueberries I picked up at my island. And if you haven't seen that video, actually, you can check out this link here, which takes you to that video where I was picking those blueberries. I put a lot of work in that video, and oddly it has so few views, even though there's so much information packed into that. Along with the blueberry fruit is the blueberry roots and some blueberry leaves and even some stems. So it's the entire plant that I've tinctured in gin, which is the traditional way that that particular recipe has been done, which is great for relieving kidney stones, tonifying the overall kidneys, but also being very good for diabetics and insulin sensitivity. I think I can get enough of it off the top that doesn't have much of anything in it. And actually that has changed the color. It's probably not noticeable in the camera, but it's turned a really dark purpley brown. So, all in all, in terms of the color, I'd say it's not the best, but if you had a different type of tea and you had different herbs you were adding, and you just focused on the brain, you could probably make a jello that had a very nice color to it. In fact, maybe in the future, just on my own time, I'll try doing like a pure brain on or algae type jello, and then I will get a nicer color with it. So I'm just going to screw the lid on this, give it another shake. Make sure it's shaken very well, because there is going to be a few things that aren't the most dissolved in there. And actually, it would be good to actually run this through a blender if you had one on hand. Fortunately, I do not. And actually, you can see here the gelatin did kind of start collecting at the bottom already, so I might have to really give this a good shake. In fact, better yet is just to throw a large mixing spoon into it and really get it pressed up against the sides. Yeah, it's almost like thicker at the bottom than it is at the top. I hope it was still hot enough. I could always heat it back up on the stove if need be. Just empty out that pot. It's not the end of the world. And while I do this, I'll just explain some more benefits of gelatin. A lot of the studies on calorie restriction have actually had similar studies done with similar scenarios in terms of the animals used. I'm not aware of studies done on humans, but what some of the studies suggest is that it's not so much of the calorie restriction that's helping with the sirtuin, increasing that enzyme being released, or that part of the genetics of every human or every animal being activated, which slows down or even increases the production of telomerase, which is the enzyme which is responsible for reattaching genetic material on the ends of our telomeres, because what's known as a major cause of aging is the shortening of telomeres. So technically, resveratrol is known for possibly doing this, aiding in the slowing down of the degeneration of our telomeres. So calorie restriction has been shown to do that in animal studies, but what's also shown to do that in animal studies is restricting a certain type of protein or amino acid out of all the essential amino acids that everyone needs. So gelatin actually contains no tryptophan, so it's not a complete amino acid. And it's not to say you should not get any tryptophan, because obviously you need some, but when that amino acid, along with possibly cysteine, is found in smaller amounts in a diet, or restricted in a diet for laboratory animals, but they're still getting optimal amounts of the other amino acids, it has resulted in very similar results that calorie restriction is able to attain. So by consuming a food like gelatin in medium to larger amounts, you actually get protein without getting those possibly slightly deleterious compounds when you get them in excess. And everyone knows that you don't want to be consuming all muscle meat on a paleo or omnivorous diet. So by cycling out some of the muscle meats for more gelatin, bone broth, things like that, you can start to shift your overall amino acid profile that you're intaking into your body for nourishment, and just getting less of the cysteine and less of the tryptophan. So there's a few little chunks just floating at the top here, which is just the herbal extracts that have sort of clumped up. So again, a blender would be optimal, but we're just sort of smushing them against the side to break them up. But overall, because it's still quite warm, it has mixed in quite easily. And I don't feel any of that stickiness at the bottom anymore. So we're going to give it another shake with the lid on. Then we're going to pour it into the Pyrex tray and put it in the fridge. If you want to learn more about the benefits of gelatin, I highly recommend reading a great article in the links below by Ray Peat. I'm definitely a fan of many of his ideas, but I'm not a complete devotee. But yeah, that's a really enlightening article in terms of scientific knowledge on nutrition. He's very well researched in what he does. I just think with a lot of people, they tend to, when it comes to nutrition, and people that are very academically oriented, they can get quite reductionistic in that they think of everything almost like the way doctors do towards disease. They look at the small components without looking at the overall picture and the reaction of an overall organism to these different changes. And very few people work on a one-size-diet-fits-all regimen. So we're just going to sample a bit of this to see if it's up to par in terms of flavor. Now that's very nice. It's quite light. It definitely has an herbal taste, so it's not something to do for kids unless you wanted to change what herbs you had in it. Maybe spilled a bit when I first started, but it's all good. Alright, I'm going to put this in the fridge, and when we get back, we're going to see the finished product. So this is what we ended up with, this sluggish, grayish JELLO dessert. I wouldn't call it dessert though, it's going to be quite bland, and is my guess, but we're going to slice through it. I haven't had JELLO in ages. JELLO actually is the brand name, so I guess it has to be called a gelatin dessert, but I think everyone calls it JELLO. So here it is, the big moment. Ah, not bad. Again, you really taste the gynostemma tea. Could probably add more to it in terms of like stevia. It's really not overly sweet tasting. Obviously, if you're doing sugar and things like that, you could add that. Honey, maple syrup might be better. You could also blend or mix it half and half with fruit juice with herbal tea of some sort of healthy type. But overall, it's very pleasant. Personally, I like the texture. This is definitely what they should be serving at hospitals, not the conventional JELLO. And with a bit of creativity, I think you could make a very tasty, as well as medicinally potent food and dessert. Whereas this is so-so on the taste, it's definitely very medicinal. And if you're sick of just drinking liquid elixirs to get your herbs, this is another way of doing it. So check out the links below to learn more about gelatin on Ray Peat's article, but we also have the affiliates for the gynostemma, hushaboo, cordyceps, and perhaps even the horny goatweed, and the brainon as well. You can find that all at the links below. So with that, let me know what you think of the recipe, like and share the video, and with that, take care and embrace life without limits. And also the benefits that it has in and of itself. What the hell did I do to get this lid on? Are you fucking kidding me? There we go. Next step. What the fuck is with these jars?